Welcome, Fontribute, where we talk about fonts and their attributes. Fontribute. It's Thomas again, and I'm here with.
Erin,
Hey,
Erin,
Erin,
yes,
great to
hi.
see you again.
Great to hear you.
Party
Yes,
over the internet. So, Erin, what are we talking about on this week's episode of Fontribute?
we are heading back to the world of scripts, as you can see. We have two kind of similar scripts. We've got Blonde script, which was designed by Indian Type Foundry, and Bistro script by Suitcase Type Foundry. Um, and I guess we're going to talk about them. That's the plan.
That is the plan, and we have a bad track. We have a bad track record of beating up scripts in this episode on this show. So let's see if we continue our traditions or not going forward.
Yeah, yeah. This is all unscripted, as everyone can tell. We're just blabbering on and on. So let's
I mean,
blabber.
in an era of fake news and hot takes, we're very much in the gestalt of the moment. So
Oh God.
let us begin.
Yay. Ooh. So, this is interesting. I would say these are probably a couple of the most similar characters between these two typefaces, I guess, based on what I've seen so far. It's interesting they both have that same, yeah, obviously the same kind of stroke approach. We've got, disconnected top of this N. It just kind of starts, there's my dogs wrestling in the back. Apologies. There's no entry stroke into this, coming from the side of this N, just straight down and then up a little bit, possibly connects to the next one. I don't know. But we also have similar, we got the similar kind of thick and thin relationships, I would say. Anything else you're observing?
Yeah. So scripts are one of my side projects I handle or do on. So I always get excited when we talk about scripts. So this approach where we don't have an entry terminal on the left side of the letter, these are semi-connected scripts. That's what they're classified as an approach that affects whoopsies, that affects the spacing and design decisions in the rest of the design, right? When we move on to other letters. So one thing you'll obviously notice is this negative side bearing, right, on the left side of blonde versus the remaining positive side bearing on the left for bistro. Part of that probably has to do with the degree of italicizing at the slant of the letters. Blonde is significantly more slanted than bistro, right? Bistro is almost an up. It's a very slight italic angle, right? It's really more of an upright in orientation. It's way more so than Blondie's script, right? Also, we can take notes, a couple other things. One is noticing how high up the exit point is for blonde versus the lowness of the point in bistro. A good rule of thumb when working on scripts I was taught was scripts letters should hold hands at the same position. So what ends up happening is the two letters have to overlap in a certain way at the same spot, right, between the next letter that precedes it, to give it a consistency of flow. That's a general guideline when designing scripts to think about. So just take note of the highness of this position versus the lowness of this one. And also we can see it appears this is a higher contrast than this. I pause a little bit on that just because I'm looking at the main stem unit, right, in weight compared to two, and then comparing that to its thin stroke between the two. But their skeletons are very similar, right? Their overall drawing shape skeleton is very similar. I'd agree with that from Erin's point of view.
Yeah. It is interesting though, like you said, because this one is more has more of an italic slope. Also, kind of taking a look. I remember when we were looking at peak, like seeing kind of also the angle that's happening from and kind of the push and pull. There's a lot more kind of brush. Well, the brush mimicry is a little bit different on both of these. Like this one, even in this stroke, I see like there's a bit of it's tapering outward. There's like more of a flow of the ink kind of seeming like it would be getting fatter here as the brush is turning, and there's almost like there's a little dip in here, kind of pretending that the paintbrush itself kind of moved a little bit, or had some of the fibers, or I mean, some of the, what the hell are they called? Okay, whatever, those brush
Yeah,
pieces,
fibers, that works.
whatever the hell they are. Lord help me. you know, kind of bent in a little bit. Whereas here, it's like this feels a little bit more like it's just the tip of some kind of pen. It didn't flow in and out, and it still remains round down here. It just feels a little bit more like a round nib pen or something like that. But anyway, that'll be interesting to see if any of those sort of characterizations continue on throughout the scripts. So
Excellent.
very cool. Yippee!
Oh, time.
Oh, time. Now it's funny because I realize when we pick our default characters to look at, when you're looking at a regular disconnected, is that what I would call it? Typeface, sans or serif or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, we choose characters to look at for certain reasons because of their standardization. But in a script, it's kind of almost like, I don't even know if this is relevant to show as one of the default characters, but whatever. So this is interesting. You know, the first thing I'm looking at is you were giving that demonstration of how high that exit point is. And here again, like you showed, this is kind of ending up in that same spot. Whereas Bistro, before that other letter was much lower, wasn't it? And
Yes, it
here
was.
it's up high. So what can you tell from that? What would you infer from that decision?
Well, I mean, I just see it in text to see how it's going to operate and work. General rule of thumb is they should hold in the same position, but of course, there's always exceptions to rules when needed. So this is probably one of those examples. I'm a little curious how this is going to work out. Mainly,
like, would that mean that, like, if you chose to do it like this in Bistro, if this is the default O, would that just mean there's probably a lot more ligatures and like alternate characters in Bistro than in Blonde?
That's certainly a possibility. I would have to
Yeah.
look into the file to know if that was
Yeah.
the case or not.
Okay. Huh. Anyway, now I'm done asking questions. So this is cool. Check out the difference. So Blonde, I have a feeling, is going to be a lot more regular in its approach to like keeping the same angle, because like check out the general form of this. It's kind of has that same angle and flow as the N, but Bistro is kind of now tipped, angled a little bit in the opposite direction or something, I think I'm sensing. So that's going to be kind of interesting to see.
I mean, it's kind of speaking. It definitely is not the same consistency of pattern that Blondie's script's giving us so far.
Yeah, it is more upright, like I guess you were saying, and also it's neat, interesting to see here, like the thickness of this stroke here versus like how thick that is. So I can already kind of tell that I think Bistro is going to have a little bit more wiggle, like they're going to be playing more fast and loose with contrast. I have a feeling, because check out this versus that, like those relationships aren't consistent. Whereas here, like, at least this thin stroke is thin, 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 but here it's like they don't keep that same kind of consistency.
Yeah, precisely. I'd agree with that as well.
Yeah. Interesting.
Before we move on, just last note, just take note again. Notice the kind of layering of paths. Like notice kind of the irregular pattern system going on, right, in those sections. Just take, it's like multiple layers of a brush adding on to the letter. So that's, contrast that to this kind of much more smoothed out approach, and then this abrupt transition right there.
Yeah, that's funny.
Brought over to the ending of the terminal. So just there is this overlap over here, right? We do see that. So generally, script typefaces, a lot of times they want to mimic kind of an overlapping stroke idea. So they'll represent it in some ways more, sometimes less, depends on the project you're trying to go for.
Interesting. Ooh, take it away.
Cool. So let's see. So obviously there are a couple of things. I think because of the strongness of the italic angle, right, we can see a much more prominent kind of arching out, and then it's this kind of abstraction. Really up here, this is kind of an abstraction to create this shape up here. Right, we see that actually in both approaches. But you notice that this one being more upright, the bubbling out starts way lower. You see that? So that therefore, like, kind of causes this arch all the way up here. That has to come back and back down again. So this leads to some interesting effects I'm looking forward to see in color. Like, will the color look kind of heavy in that upper section over there? Now, there are sections that do repeat because scripts are not, while they're still script typefaces, they're scripts, but they're also typefaces. So there's certain a modulation that's consistent across the design. The big note to tell is this terminals, right? These terminals are speaking to the N, for example. So it's still following the logic we would normally think for typefaces in general, right, in that approach. Meanwhile, on the left side, how the rounds are handled now, they're similar to their O's, but they're different, right? The momentums are different, especially you can see in this area right here in Blondie, and likewise in Bistro. It's kind of a flatness that has to happen, right, between the two. But the approaches down here, I can see, are very similar to what their O counterparts did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good observations. I don't know if I have more to add. I'm going to just yak all day. I know I chose a lot of letters,
Yeah,
so
no,
I'll be brief.
a lot to talk about.
Yeah. Ooh. So I had to put this in because this is one of the very, very different letters. You know, if you didn't see the P on the side over here, you could be like, is this just a really wacky N? Erin, no, maybe not. But it's just a, very abbreviated. Whoops, it doesn't even have that kind of entry stroke. Very abbreviated P script form that I don't see too often, but that was kind of fun to see. But also, so this one does have a very, brief entry here. And this, so since this comes across, it's going to be interesting to see how the different letters relate. And like, I didn't actually take a close look at either of these to see how many alternate forms there were. So we'll have to wait for our text samples to see if we can determine, the extent of the extra ligatures and alternate characters that there are. But it does have an exit stroke here. I don't know how it would connect to things, whereas the other exit strokes were going up. So I don't know if this connects to anything, but I don't know.
Yeah, it might go right to the rounds. So like remember most of the straights,
right,
are like so. Now, so it actually, again, this is the approach. This is sometimes the advantage of semi-connected, right? It doesn't have to guarantee a connection,
right,
with its next letter, right?
Yep.
Because of that.
And it just would look great, as if this were at the end of a sentence. That's just a nice kind of way to end it. So I mean, it's quite cute. I mean, that's, like you said, one of the advantages of the semi-connected. If you have a cool element, it can just remain there and look as it does and look happy. So, but yeah, I would say this follows the same kind of logic we saw in some of those other letters, and I think it feels very consistent with how the weight was treated in the other letters. Bistro, I think this is very successful. I really think this looks natural and looks really good in Bistro. I like it a lot. I don't know. Huh.
Works for me.
What else do we have? Ooh, fun. Yay. Yeah, I wanted to include this because I just thought this was kind of a unusual A, just because that little dip hanging in there, even though A is a very common character in English anyway, and a lot of other European languages. So I just thought that was pretty distinct little blurb there.
Tidbit over there. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Right. And just again, take note again. I think the big rule of Blondie over here is like it's super consistent, right? It's almost modular in its approach, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like here's a straight, right, and it's following the same vocabulary we've seen before, and this is the round part. Basically, the D. It's already pulled from the D to get to this form. Maybe slightly modified it, but it looks pretty consistent with the D we saw before. Yeah, and this seems like a totally new approach, right? A new vocabulary added in.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how this is going to work in text settings going forward.
Sure. Yippee. So this is interesting. Yeah, I know, there's a few different options for drawing a B in a script typeface. And what do you think of these two different approaches?
Well, it's very different, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the biggest thing you can tell, right? This one has an exit terminal. This one chooses no exit terminal. Again, I'm curious how many alternatives they drew, but in theory, there's no issues because the next letter would just sit right next to it.
Right. Yeah.
Right, and sit there, and then the letter, if it was next to it over here, would connect that way.
Yeah. And then typefaces, that use this approach for like the B, then you're obviously going to see that. Well, actually, the P did have a lot more flair going on in it.
The P had this magic happening.
It did have flair. Yeah, but it does allow for a little more consistency between, D, B, P, Q. If those all look the same, your typeface is going to look a little more regular. But obviously, Bistro, there's not another one of those letters that's going to look quite like this. So I have a feeling there's going to be less consistency overall, definitely, in the Bistro script.
Yeah, we'll find out when we get to the conclusion.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yes.
Erin, why did you include so many slides? I don't know.
It's all good. We got
Why
these
not?
shits. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the main thing I'm saying, take note, this is exactly the same system as the P.
Yeah, that's interesting. And this, I included this. You know what? I remember now. This actually, I forgot to include the kind of baseline, but this bistro. Oh my! Someone's getting sick. Stay healthy, my
Oh
friend.
no, I thought I was on mute. My bad.
No. uh, this S goes below the baseline, so that's also kind of an interesting, quirk to this typeface. And again, like you said, boop, we've got some little funny little
Sharpness.
sharpness happening in Bistro, but that's been consistent. We've seen that in several places. So interesting. I
Yeah,
think
well,
that
everybody apologize for my sniffles over here and sneezing. I thought I had mute on when that was happening. I'm sorry.
we're all worried about you. We're gonna send you chicken soup.
Yeah,
Get
thanks, guys. Yeah, just a quick note, just kind of notice the overlap here. So like notice this has an entry terminal and an exit in this edition. And take note of its positions, right? These are they're meant to overlap and connect with each other.
Nice.
Just take note of that. Meanwhile, the bistro, again, it's like it's kind of, I think it should connect. I remember them being pretty low.
Yeah, I think that might have been the connection area, but yeah, this obviously is gonna remain there. Yep.
Let's
What's
see
our
how,
next?
I wonder how this is going to turn out.
Oh, what's next? Oh, I don't remember. Oh, I'm sorry.
So many.
This is the last one, I believe, but I just wanted to include this because when we were talking about the D, it's the kind of closed loop abbreviated form of that. But I noticed that in Blonde script that they kept this counter, very open, and there's a lot of light, a lot of white happening in there. Bistro is a little more closed off there, so I also think Bistro is going to feel a bit heavier in the ascenders, and maybe even some of the descenders. So that's my hunch.
Yeah. I think part of the reason why they chose to have an open loop, a looped edition of the Blondie script was probably for spacing. That's my prediction.
Yeah.
Because if it didn't, it'd be like all this heaviness and all this extra space over here.
Yeah, and the counters of the Blonde were very kind of a lot wider and more consistent than Bistro were. So, Bistros were. So I have a feeling, yeah, like the rhythm of the typeface, they're going to want this to be a little bit wider to play better with the other characters. I think I'm learning how to understand script talking through this with you. This is good.
Yes,
Maybe I'll
exactly.
design one someday. Ooh la la.
Mm,
Wow. So this is where, yeah, this is the big difference in the typeface. It's the capital letters are like the most humongo difference between these two. Blonde chose very, what is this called? Like this type of just not block capitals. What the hell are they called? Just like um, simple construction, sansy type capital letters, whereas
no, block.
Bistro,
You
they're
can call it block letters. I
block
think
letters. Yeah.
that's
Anyway,
what it's very very casual block letters, but
oh
block
man,
letters nevertheless.
but freaking Bistro is wackadoo. Like everything is very you'll see in
Yeah,
some of
see
the
that
other
connected
examples, there's
business.
a lot of they connect, they've got a lot of loops, they've got a lot of flourishes, entry strokes. So that's it, they're going to give it a very different feel overall when you see it. So
Erin, did you have the contextual alternates activated for this when you made the slides?
you know what? I'm pretty sure I did because I think I remember ligatures happening in our text samples. Yep.
Okay, good. Because then, and that's the case, this makes me really sad.
Oh, well, you're not good. But what you're not. Well, they probably didn't plan someone to type two H's in a row.
You know
Why
what?
would anyone do that?
I understand that, but it's still it's a principle. I don't know, man. What about L?
Oh, well, we don't know. Maybe they programmed the L to wait, what? What are you even talking about? What word are you thinking is
I
going to
don't
happen?
know. Hey, you never
Okay,
know.
never
The
mind.
world's weird. The world's a wacky place. You never know what's going to be out
You're
there.
crazy, man.
All I'm saying is, this got me. I was looking at this and going, "Whoa, that."
Well, you'll see some special ligatures that they made that are questionable, depending on your tastes. We'll see them. Oh,
See.
just you wait.
Oh, lovely. Okay, so
Okay, so this is a good example. I had to include this here. So now this is more clear. We've got a few examples of capital letters so everyone can see what I was
nice.
struggling to articulate, that the approach
Wow.
is super different. Um, And you had, you actually had been working on a project recently where you were having to deal with capital letters and do script capitals work together in this
Yep.
like this? That's tricky. You have to kind of tone them down in order for them to be legible and to check them out. But whew, where do we begin? There's a lot going on in this slide. Sorry, readers or
I know. It's
listeners.
like, wow, so much to talk about.
There's a lot to talk about. Let's start. You start. You
Yeah,
start.
you got it. So obviously, I'm going to start the plan of attack on. Uh, here's a big issue with script caps, right? When you go for this really expressive style of it, what you sacrifice is the ability for these to work together in cap settings. Like these guys are they're probably more optimized to work with their lowercase partners. Most of the cases, I still question about the H and that approach. Also, it's width anyway. But moving on, its effectiveness is kind of lost, right? When we do a more simple block letter approach like this, no, they work much more effectively in cap settings. That's the advantage of doing that. Now, moving on to the actually, I'll stop right now. What else you're seeing before we move on to the
yeah, with
accents?
the caps. I mean, yeah, it's not necessarily the goal of a script typeface to work in a cap setting. So, like, devil's advocate, that makes sense that they wouldn't plan for anyone to use it like that. But it's a bonus if it works. Although I don't know about the spacing. Like this,
Yeah,
I don't think this person planned for anyone to use this in all caps, because otherwise this is too tight and that's too loose. But they're simple and effective and kind of cool. Actually, to be honest, this EY is actually kind of cool. That
it's
how
fun.
they join up.
I like how it
actually kind
connects.
of
Yeah, it's
I
like a
actually kind of
logo. It
like
looks
that.
really cool.
I think it was unintentional, but it's nice.
Yeah, I agree
Yeah.
with that.
Anyway, but if you want, now we can start back here. Now that that's out of the way, should we talk about accents? I mean, I think they're both effective. I think they were both done well, and I don't have any issues with either. What do you think?
Overall, no, I think they're pretty good. I mean, it's a setup. I think the main note here, one thing I slightly question is his decision to slant the Dyrus.
I love it. I think that's cool because it seems more
you like the
natural.
slant approach?
This, if it looked this in isolation, it seems a little slightly more foreign. I love the slant. I think it's freaking cool. I also like both. Look, they both made the acute like longer because that's kind of naturally your hand would maybe make that a little longer if you were right-handed. I assume, but I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know.
all good. It's all good. I think actually I do agree. Also, I like the archiness, right? There's a certain archiness going on. I'm sensing
Hmm.
the mimic brush or hand actions. Basically, they feel alive. They feel like they associate with their main letter origin, which I do really appreciate.
Hmm. Yeah, looks good to me. Yeah, and even like, this the way this flows and this maybe not as much, like it
Yeah, not
feels
as
like it's
much.
going down a little bit like at a weird angle or something. These feel very natural. I like the curve of this. Yeah. Anyway, those look fine to me, but I thought I'd include them anyway just to take a look. I don't remember why I included the ampersand. Maybe just because I know people who use script typefaces are generally using it in display setting and usually people like to use all the extra characters like ampersands. So here's what they look like, people who are in the market for a typeface.
Hey, Erin,
But
do you feel like this guy's like back slanted?
yeah, he's a little bit more, well, I mean, I don't know, uprighty, but I think I really like it. I think it looks good. But yeah, I think you're right. It's pushing a little bit further back than I might have expected. I like it though. What do you think?
Yeah, again, like I'm curious. I want to see it in text because I feel like so most of these guys are going for this slightly italic slant, right?
Hmm.
And this guy's going like like the opposite direction.
Yeah, that's true.
Uh, so I'm curious to see how it's going to work in text.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's a little on the awkward side, but for now I like him. Um, Also, it's interesting. Look how prominent and dark this stroke is, where these are quite light. That's also kind of interesting. I wasn't expecting that, but
yeah,
it,
primary versus secondary.
right. So that's kind of interesting. But so this I really want to talk about. Holy mackerel! That's my word of the day. I think
Mm.
that phrase of the day. Those to me don't feel very well considered, at least in this. Looking at the things around it, I think they're kind of heavy and blobby, and I don't know. I don't like them too much and too high up. I mean, I'm not a super fan of those quotation marks. What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree they're not speaking from the same vocabulary I'm seeing from the other letters, right? any other
Yeah.
designs. I would agree with that. The same thing applies with the question mark. The question mark, it's like a lost opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, yeah. Good way to phrase that for
You know,
sure.
compare that to this question mark. It feels very much appropriate to what it's trying to do with the tool.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
likewise
there's
for the exclamation point. Like this guy's got that little "that's all, folks," like that kind of playful vibe to him. When it's a little lacking, right? It's a little stilted in the Bistro script edition.
Sure. Agreed. Yeah. Should we take a look at the if you want to say anything else, but otherwise
This last note, just again, I empathize.
oh.
We
Yeah,
all.
if someone ever has I don't know what everyone's punctuation rules are in different places, but who knows? Who knows?
I think
How
it's just. I think.
thorough
I think. I
do you
think it's
want to
just
be?
not
Right.
watching, not doing a collision check. That's all.
Sure. There you go.
All right. So now the dance begins. We start seeing some settings of words.
Yes, here's our fake word of the day of all time, how these look together. So, here's where people can observe what we were talking about with, okay, it's a semi-connected script. So there's a combination that they decided, nope, not doing it. Who cares? Here's how that S intersects with something next to it. That's actually quite cool. I really like that a lot. And here's, the equivalent that we were talking about here, where it's not connected at all. Yeah, what are your observations and thoughts? What do you think so far?
Well, I mean, definitely the main thing I'm seeing with Blondie is its consistency of the lower case, right? There's a consistency of stroke and angle I'm seeing across the board.
Mhm.
Uh, Bistro, it's like it's dancing, it's moving, it's got a lot of jiggle and jangling going on.
Yeah.
Uh, and
Yeah.
actually, it takes a moment. I actually take a moment to appreciate. Notice there's basically what not only is it semi-connected Bistro script, it's also doing what appears to be different exit stroke entries. Like take
Yeah.
notice of the top here, right? These two.
Right. Right.
So it's actually adding another layer of complexity in the program in the system. Uh, Meanwhile, Blondie, it's sticking as much as possible to the idea that all the letters are hitting roughly
Hmm.
this segment over here.
Yeah. And as a result of that, to be honest, like I kind of feel like Bistro feels a little bit more hand drawn because it has all of those differences and stuff. So, at least in my eyes, because of its inconsistency. So it just kind of depends, like what you're going for, I guess. What you're looking for. Are you looking for something that's more consistent and kind of polished or something? To me, it seems like so far blonde looks like that, but Bistro, like I don't know, this looks a little bit more unpredictable and handmade to me. I don't know.
It depends what you're going for.
Yeah, interesting.
I will say already, I'm already not liking this ass already at this setting. Well, again, I'll give it the opportunity of setting in text to see how it goes, but
Sure.
we'll see. And I'm still hating on this H with all my passion.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. Not a fan of the H. Wish they'd chosen something else. Let's see. So what's our next slide? Ah, yes. Ah, look at this.
Oh,
So there we go. Contextual
okay.
alternates are on.
Wow, this is a real hot take moment right now.
Whoo, yeah. Um, yep. Oh, this hurts me so much.
Yeah.
Look how high that is, and it is not current, not happy. I'm not happy with that. I would
No.
hope that someone's watching this and will maybe fix that or try to make it something. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's
You're already hitting
yeah,
another note I want to hit. Yeah.
yeah, I don't
This is.
know.
Yup.
That's unfortunate. But
Where?
like, look at
Where?
the word
Where?
improvised. I think this looks great, to be honest. I really like that. I think that looks
Yeah.
amazing.
Too bad jazz next to it looks like shit. No, I'm
Oh,
sorry to be a jerk. I apologize.
jazz is a hard word to make look good in a script. I
I do
mean,
agree that is. I
it,
I say it with the full love, but it
the
just
stupid Z is hard.
Z's are tough in scripts. I fully agree.
Yeah.
I'm just a little. I just get sad with his approach. That's all.
Oh, and look at the initial S here. It's got a loop in it.
Yeah.
Huh. Man, it's so hard just because script typefaces, because people design so many different alternates, it's really hard to kind of like, if you have a very specific word you're trying to type, trying to set, it's like you could just look through every single typeface. I mean, you wouldn't know what you'd be getting until you looked at, what exactly all the different alternates they would have. It's really hard to know what you're getting when you look for a typeface like this. Man, so look at this. Improvise. Look at the PR there. Now that's weird.
That's
I don't know about that. That looks kind of not cool to me. I don't know.
Let's see. Well, I mean, yeah, I would expect it to go like more like this.
I mean, I guess it kind of works. It just disturbs me. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'm a fan.
It's definitely not the best solution.
No. Let's see what else we can find. This is fun. This is like those. Oh, okay. I'm like word search. I'm looking for weird stuff. Okay, well, let's check out so this is also interesting. Look at the double T's. This looks, very nice. We've got 2 different levels here, depending on what you want. Still hate the H. Why am I putting the H in here? I want to cry. I like this L.
The L is more successful.
That's cool. I like that. Huh. Wow, I'm just being super.
Yeah, we're going in here and just demoing.
Objective. I'm just being super like, here's my personal choice or personal
we
preferences.
Kind of
Sorry, everybody, but it's just fascinating.
Yeah, let's circle back. Let's
step back a little bit. What are we observing? I'm looking at this. Blonde seems okay. I definitely see the angle. It feels more consistent overall. The kind of positive and negative shapes, I think, are working a lot better in blonde script. That's my take. But Bistro, I kind of like that it feels like it's like a different tool. It's just kind of like blobby, inky that's getting thin in certain areas. Like it feels drippier or something like that. Like it's got a totally different feel and narrowness, and I don't know. I still kind of like it. What are your slightly more objective thoughts?
I know. Yeah, so definitely there's a how best to put this. So they're both from the same skeleton form vocabulary, right? But there's a kind of like fluidity and kind of casualness more so in Bistro, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can see that with the S's, for example, and just kind of how this S is handled, how the L is handled. So it's overall approach. It basically gives it basically I think a more casual, less typographic sensation overall, which may be what you're going for, right? And actually, it's a little more how best to put this. It's not really. I wouldn't call it like well, I mean, because it is a more upright italic, so I guess it's more upright angle. It feels more vertical, right, than the energy I'm getting from Blondie.
Right. And just like condensed as well. Like look how much more text you can get in this. So that's just a little observation. So that's interesting. I know I made one more slide where we're looking up, even closer at the letters. So I don't know if we want to
jump on to see how that's going.
Sure.
Which is probably more appropriate. Like this is probably how you would actually use it.
Yeah. So what? It's like Pi Day or something. Pi. So that's a TH ligature that I don't know needs to exist, but who knows?
Again, this whole method of caps are fun.
Look at that S. What the heck? Where'd that come from?
It just jumped in there.
It's very weird. Yeah, definitely Bistro is like unpredictable. You don't know what you're gonna get.
It is working. It's working pretty good in the spiffy. Like that's actually that's not working. That's not too bad.
Yeah. The double F. Oh, that's interesting, huh? And look at the different approaches to the double F. Huh, that's really interesting. This one gets small, and I think feel a little more. I think that's a little awkward. But that's weird. Like this also just draws my eye. The fact that they're, I don't know, the difference between those. I don't know. Anyway, but you're right. I like spiffy. That's kind of fun. Concerts looks great. Huh. Wow, I'm really barely talking.
I think
there's so much to observe. No!
What's the matter?
There needs to be a turn there. It's hurting me. It makes me sad.
We've
Anyway.
lost all objectivity in this Fontribute episode. I
It's
promise we'll
hard
do
because
better next time.
it's hard because it's like there's things I really like about it and love, but it's just like a few, some of the little details were sacrificed, I think. Like it wasn't as thoroughly like combed over in terms of like type, those sorts of things. At Bistro, and I can imagine how hard it is if you have this many, different alternates and things that have to interact. It's a lot harder to
keep this shit under control.
Yeah, test and troubleshoot a typeface that has all these different moving parts. It's a lot harder. I mean, anyone who does a typeface like this, I commend them. It's very difficult. I believe Blonde script probably has a lot fewer variations, so it's probably easier to go, comb through and make those, make it set a little bit more evenly, because of because it's more systematic. So, I don't know. I like them. I like them both. Anyway.
Yeah, for different reasons. Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. I do feel like actually, I feel like there are moments in the capitals of Bistro that are pretty successful, right? They feel pretty good, but then there's other moments I'm like,
yeah.
Not fully sold on it.
There was a capital I on the other page that just looked like a giant J, and I was like, oh, I'm not feeling it.
That's a big problem in scripts. The I's and J's get confused all the time.
Interesting. Very interesting. Oh, and yeah, there we go. We're good. 2 different strokes. Different strokes for different folks.
Obviously so. I would fully agree with that.
J whoa. I don't know.
J whoa.
Okay. I'm immature. Sorry, everybody.
It's
fine. But this was fun. I love it. I mean, they're both. Thank you, people who made these typefaces. It's so difficult and so interesting. So many different paths to take. It's just fascinating to see these. Thank you, people. I'm sorry if I'm too harsh. It's just I do it out of admiration as well. I'm just in awe. There's just so much to see and observe, and this was probably our longest episode ever because I'm just
41 minutes at this point.
Oh Jesus! Sorry, everybody.
Lovely time.
I'll stop talking now. Goodbye.
Yeah, so I think that concludes this discussion of Fontribute with scripts. Yes, I think the world of scripts are many and plentiful, so I know we have many things to talk about in the future. But Erin, it's been fun with you. I promise everybody we'll be more professional in our approach of this going forward. Erin, have a great week, okay?
Thank you. Bye, Tommy.